As you guys know, I consider Football Manager 26 to be an utter failure. It feels almost like an imitation of a Football Manager game, like a cover band trying to recreate your favorite song. While it certainly looks like a Football Manager game, it doesn't feel like a Football Manager game, and that's where the problem is. And you know, it doesn't help when Miles Jacobson comes out and publicly apologizes for this game being such a mess. So thank you for all of you who asked in the comments section, and yes, I did see the press release that Football Manager Sports Interactive came out with the other day. And yeah, you know, despite all of the company's flaws and the fact that the new version really sucks, I still find myself hopelessly addicted to Football Manager. I mean, it certainly helps that we can still play Football Manager 24 and avoid all of the vibe coding of the latest version. And while the game might be a little bit dated, it's still got the same hold on me as it did when I first played it years ago. In other words, the thing that makes Football Manager truly addictive has nothing to do with Sports Interactive's latest innovations for the series. Anyway guys, it's time for the top 10 reasons I still play Football Manager. Now I'll tell you right away, there are certain things I'm not going to say here, right? Like press conferences, right? I hate press conferences. I would prefer if those didn't exist in the game. The in-game like interactions with like, you know, your players or meetings with your staff, all of that stuff sucks, right? Nobody wants that. These are all the garbage innovations that Sports Interactive has come out with over the years. They have made the game worse, not better. But in hopes of being positive for a change, here are the 10 things that really keep me hooked on this game despite its many flaws. Number 10 is the backbone of Football Manager itself, the database. Notice that I'm not talking about the pre-game editor itself. That software is buggy and poorly designed. Rather, I'm talking about the amazing database, which is unusually detailed and includes all sorts of obscure things. So are you interested in finding like the best striker from the Iranian lower leagues? Do you want to try to sign a North Korean center back? Does your team need more Samoan players? Don't we all? Well, you can do all of this in Football Manager thanks to its incredibly detailed database. Anyway, as you guys already know, the database is largely community created. People connected with the sport in even minor and obscure ways wind up having their likenesses in the vast database. And yeah, it's probably likely that a lot of the information comes directly from the clubs themselves. So there is a question here about the ethics behind Sports Interactive making big bucks off of a database that it largely receives for free from parts of the community. But I'm not going to get deep into that problem in this video. Basically, the database is absolutely fantastic, and it is a key part of why Football Manager has remained so relevant over all these years despite its many flaws. Anyway, my next point is something that is certainly not unique to Football Manager at all. This would be the promotion and relegation system. The threat of being relegated after a particularly poor season gives Football Manager a certain level of depth and immersion. Similarly, the promise of potential promotion gives you a natural incentive to play just a little bit more to see if you can't take your favorite obscure club up to the top. But of course, as you know, all football games have promotion and relegation, and if your game doesn't, it's probably an MLS game, so you can just throw it away, right? It's just a natural part of the sport. Now, the thing that makes Football Manager special in this regard is how deep you can go in the league system and how far up the ladder you can get. And so if you really want, you can use Football Manager to overturn the injustices of the sport and ensure that the right team wins in the end. That's part of the appeal of Football Manager. You can go deep into the league system, find a great story, and turn it into your own epic. And there's no better feeling than achieving victory at the lower levels after a long and frustrating season. And anyway, this game is so deep that you can repeat that experience over and over again, and you can even go from one country to the next and do it again and again. And that just so happens to be the next point on my list. Number 8 is the fact that you can literally go anywhere. Of course, if you want to go to some of the cool countries, you need to get a few editor data files to help you out. But the fact that you can literally manage a team anywhere in the world is extremely attractive to me. So there are a ton of sandbox games out there, sure, you guys know about this, Paradox and all that stuff. And honestly, Football Manager does a pretty poor job at making you feel like you're actually in a different country, but you can fix this on your own with a little bit of research and a little dash of imagination. I mean, I don't get the feeling that I've gone to manage in Iran when I see screens like this. However, it's not hard to find photos and maps to get you in the mood. Fan culture differs from country to country and region to region, of course, and it's worth it to get deep into what's actually happening in the country you've chosen. And if you set it up right, you can literally take yourself anywhere in the world you want to go. So Football Manager's not unique in that regard. I mean, we could all be playing like Europa Universalis 5 instead, for example. I've got my copy on Steam here on my computer, and I haven't even played it yet, so that tells you how addicted I am to FM. The thing is, though, that for me at least, FM is more fun since you've got a clear goal and the sport always remains the same. And honestly, it really is a lot of fun to manage in a crazy place like the Marshall Islands or Cambodia or whatever. And that brings me straight to point number 7. Part of the fun of Football Manager is creating crazy challenges for yourself to compete just because you can. And if you can't think of any good challenges for yourself, there's a section of the Sports Interactive forum that is filled with ideas. Some of the ideas are a little bit better than others. Some of them can be done relatively quickly, others might take you months or even years to complete, but there is always a new way to play the game. The most famous of these challenges is, of course, the Youth Academy Challenge. This is where you take a lower side and turn them into European or even world champions without purchasing a single player via transfers. In other words, your success or failure depends entirely on how your youth intake goes. And, well, my latest attempt at completing this wound up in utter failure. Well, I made a video about that adventure just last week. You can check that out if you want. The Youth Academy Challenge is extremely satisfying if you can get it to work for you, though you also run the very real danger of being fired if it doesn't go your way. But there are other challenges that are worth checking out as well. For example, there's the famous San Marino Challenge, where you can only use players from San Marino. It's kind of like the Youth Academy Challenge on steroids. You've got the Hexagon Challenge, where you have to win the Champions League in all 6 continents, and it's not as easy as you might think. And then you've got insane and time-consuming challenges where you have to win a ton of different competitions in various places. And you can also just create whatever challenge it is you want to do, right? The world is your oyster. Anyway, these challenges really add a lot of depth to the game and prevent it from becoming boring and really stale. And there are other ways you can customize your game as well, which also adds a lot more to Football Manager. The truth is that vanilla Football Manager is really boring. Thankfully, we've got tons of cool stuff like these player faces. You can also find different uniform packs, stadium packs, backgrounds, and so on. And different skins too. Well, you used to be able to use different skins, that is. Sports Interactive and Miles, in all their wisdom, decided to get rid of it in FM26 for no apparent reason, probably because they don't know how Unity actually works. Anyway, the ability to customize the game is a huge attractive point, since you can take the game and really make it your own. Of course, I really do wish I could customize more of the game than just the skin and player faces and whatever else. It's kind of frustrating when every single save ends up looking exactly the same. While you can change a bunch of stuff using the pregame editor, the bugs are crazy, and there are still hidden limits as to what you can actually do. Seriously, Sports Interactive should be trying to make this game more customizable, not less. Hopefully they'll learn their lesson after the fiasco that is Football Manager 26. I don't think that they will. Anyway, number 5 on this list is likely going to be a surprise to a lot of you, especially if you don't know much about how Football Manager actually works. Number 5 is the powerful random number generator, in particular the feeling that you literally can accomplish anything in this game. No matter how obscure your side is, there is always a chance that you will see some sort of miracle take place and that you will be able to dethrone a huge team.
That was what he had to make in the face of
And of course, sometimes the RNG works against you as well. So the thing about Football Manager is that its random number generator is really powerful. In fact, that's the reason why save scumming works. You can try it sometime, right? So right before a match, you want to save the game and then play the match in instant mode. If you lose, don't save the game again. Instead, load it back up again and just play that match again. Change nothing. Even if you change nothing at all, you will notice that you will be able to beat even the most powerful teams in the game a certain percentage of the time. You can play through a whole save like this, changing nothing, and become the best manager in the world just by winning every game. That is the power of Football Manager's RNG. The masters of Football Manager over at FM Arena have written quite a bit about the power of Football Manager's random number generator. Even the best downloadable tactics result in an extremely wide spread of results if you play against comparable talent. Testing shows that the best tactics in the game will still give you a hugely variable result if you are up against similarly matched teams. The real key to success in Football Manager lies in getting the best players, not just having the best tactics. And that's the reason why the challenges I mentioned earlier are so much fun. So if you stop yourself from cheating the system and getting the best players, the game suddenly will become a lot more stressful and a lot more interesting. Anyway, the RNG is fantastic, and that's what keeps me coming back for more. Now, number 4 is something you probably won't expect me to talk about when I'm talking Football Manager. Okay, this is Dragon Quest IV. This is my favorite RPG of all time. As you can see, the game consists of a lot of exploring. You go around from place to place. True RPGs tend to combine exploration with character development and dialogue, almost like you're living out a book. Well, that seems a long way away from Football Manager, right? I mean, you can't even get out of your club to go down the street. Funny tidbit for you, there were earlier Football Manager type games that let you actually do stuff outside of the clubhouse, but Sports Interactive, you know how those guys are. Anyway, the thing is that Football Manager does have a lot of RPG elements under the hood. And the game is honestly a lot more fun if you let the game take you on a journey instead of trying to force the game to go where you want to go. I mean, all of us want to feel that sensation of giving Rochdale to actually win the league and finally secure promotion, sure. But failing in your attempt to make magic happen and having to deal with the consequences of failure is just as alluring. And sometimes the best way to play the game is to just take what comes and see where it takes you. A lot of people get really frustrated over things like player interactions, and yeah, I'll be honest with you, player interactions in Football Manager totally suck, right? But the best way to deal with them is to just let the game take you along for a ride. It's a lot more interesting to go up and down a bumpy road than it is to fix everything ahead of time so that you always win. Number 3 is the Newgens, those wonderful new players who fill our saves full of hope and life. The best part of the game comes when you have your youth intake and you have the chance to meet your new group of best friends. I always make sure to append the player names with the year that they were created, and I make sure to sign them to long-term contracts as soon as possible. So there are always people out there asking for the latest updated database with the newest real-life Wonder Kids or the transfers or whatever. That's nice, I suppose, but for me, the real joy of playing this game is playing with the players that the game generates for you. After all, these are your players. They are your babies. They belong to nobody else. They are uniquely your own. And that's why it's so much fun to do the Youth Academy Challenge.
Not a lot we need to say about that. Looking to go deep. Go backwards here.
There's no better feeling out there than when your players figure out how to play well and start beating teams that are supposed to be a lot better than them. This is certainly more fun than any RPG I've ever played. And you can't tell me that it's more fun to play with real-life players than to see your babies pull something like this off. And that is one of the greatest things about Football Manager, the fact that you can make something really impressive out of literally nothing. Once you get deep into the world of playing with the Newgens, you'll wonder why you ever play the game any other way. Anyway, number 2 on this list is another surprise. As odd as this sounds, there is no better way to get fixated on this game than to lose. There is nothing quite like losing to convince you to keep going, if for no other reason than to get your revenge. And it's even more meaningful when you wind up losing your job as a result. Alright guys, we need to talk about this. So the thing is that sports are all about storylines. It's not about winning everything, guys. It's about getting really, really, really close to victory and then losing it in the end. That's the thing that gets you hooked on sports. And that's why I can't stop playing Football Manager. I mean, sure, I would love to win every match, but that would take all of the fun out of it, wouldn't it? And victory only means something if you went through a lot of defeat to get there. Losing the ball in the rain and conceding a frustrating goal winds up being better for you than simply beating every opponent without trying.
Good read, needed to be. That is a gem! An absolute gem!
And that's the reason I don't save scum, right? Losing is a huge part of this game. If it weren't for losing, this game wouldn't be any fun at all. You gotta take the good with the bad. Anyway, that brings me to the number one reason I'm so hooked on Football Manager, which is the community. The number one thing that got me hooked on this game is simple. It's the community. Sure, that includes things like downloadable add-ons and whatever, but it also means the discussion forums, the YouTube channels, the podcasts, the Twitter threads, and all of the other amazing stuff that you find in this community. Sure, we fight all the time, right? It's because we love each other, right? People still get upset with me for being so critical of Football Manager 26, but that's because they're idiots who don't know a good game if it would bite them on the leg, right? But we still really need each other, right? It's the community that makes this game fantastic. It's not anything that Sports Interactive has done, and it's definitely not any of the narcissistic things that Miles Jacobson has said. It's the community that has helped us solve things like the ridiculous training system in Football Manager. It's the community that has given us the various modifications to keep Football Manager 24 relevant even after all these years. And to be blunt, it's this community that keeps me from totally nuking my Reddit account since there's nothing else on that site that I'm even remotely interested in. The community is the most powerful part of Football Manager by far. Anyway, there you have it. Those are the 10 reasons I still play Football Manager despite all my complaints. So what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments and we can fight it out.